What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the shotguns in Fortnite OG and letting you know which one I think is best in Fortnite Zero Build. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below which shotgun has been your favorite in Zero Build so far in Fortnite OG. So the biggest complaint I've seen a lot of players making about the shotguns this season is that they just feel terrible and much more inconsistent than what we've had in recent Fortnite seasons. And there's a few reasons for that. Like, it's not incorrect. They are not necessarily inconsistent, but they are less forgiving in the terms of, like, you need to have better aim with these, you need to play better with these, whereas like the chapter 4 shotguns were more forgiving. The range on the current shotguns is not as good as what we've had in chapter 4, and that definitely makes them feel less consistent because you do need to play closer up to the opponent. You're going to lose damage more with these shotguns in range, and it's not like it's not like we're saying like 30 meters away. Even just like 1 or 2 meters difference with these shotguns matters, whereas like with a lot of the chapter 4 shotguns it really didn't. Also, the body damage on this pump isn't as good as the sharp tooth from last season, or like the havoc and thunder shotguns from earlier in chapter 4. I think you could like easily hit like 150 to the body with like the havoc pump, and it was very forgiving in that way. You didn't need to have perfect aim, whereas with the pump you need to have pretty much perfect aim. And then the spread is also larger on these shotguns, and that is going to, lead to some inconsistency for sure. So this is kind of confusing because the gold pump shotgun and the sharp tooth share the same weapon models. So in this example, in slot 1, I'm going to have the gold pump, and then in slot 2, I'm going to have the sharp tooth. And as you will see, the sharp tooth does have a smaller pellet spread than the gold pump, and this is also something that's affected by rarity. So when you have the better rarity shotguns, the pellet spread is going to be tighter, and this goes with ARs as well. Like the better AR has better bloom, like more accuracy. So, but anyways, when you have the higher rarity shotguns, they get more accurate. And the reason why this matters is because it's very difficult to get a high rarity loot this season compared to a lot of chapter 4. For a lot of chapter 4, not only was gold loot just dropping somewhat regularly just from looting, we had NPCs you could buy good loot from. And then also there was like the I forget what it's called, the crate that would come in third zone. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of it, but that would come in at third zone, and then you could go for that and get, a gold pump if you get it quickly. Whereas with this season, it's much harder to get good loot. So not only does that mean we're typically going to have less accurate shotguns, but just less effective shotguns in general. You're used to having like purple and gold loot consistently. So you're comparing some of like the best of previous season shotguns to the worst of these current season shotguns. Like I've only seen the spaz or the gold pump like a few times, and I play a lot, And back to like the damage being worse, the body damage is much worse, but like the headshot damage can be good. If you get a perfect headshot with a gold pump, it will hit for 207. A green pump has a perfect headshot damage of 161, whereas the gold sharp tooth from last season had a max damage of 165. So you definitely can hit harder with the current shotguns. Like a green pump is somewhat comparable to the gold sharp tooth, but it's just like you have to have better aim. It's not just going to like be super forgiving in terms of body damage. And I think that kind of throws a lot of people off because the shotguns in Fortnite have kind of just always been inconsistent to a degree. But that's something that's been improved upon with recent seasons. Like the body damage gets better. They have like the damage caps to where like you can get max damage without actually hitting a perfect shot and hitting all your pellets to the head. Like a lot of the shotguns in more recent Fortnite do a lot more damage than what the max actually is, and there's just a cap. So instead of hitting like 9 pellets to the head to get the max damage, you only have to hit like 6 or something. That's just like a random example, but that is something that has led to like the consistency of shotguns feeling better. And so for a lot of these reasons, I think the tac shotgun is just the way to go for Zero Build. The pump can be good, but it requires you to be perfect. And with how a lot of the fights play out this season, I just feel like the tac is better. Like pumps have always been more demanding in terms of like you needing to hit a good shot, but I think that like it's much more so this season than recent seasons because of that lower body damage. And also with the ARs being less consistent this season, like the third person ARs, you're not going to be like opening fights with 100+ AR damage every time. Whereas like I feel like when we had the twin mag AR or the red eye in the game, if you had decent AR aim, you can tag the person like 100, 150, shockwave on them or hammer, katana on them, whatever. And then you really only need 100 headshot damage to like finish that kill. Whereas like this season, you might only hit like, 80 damage with the ARs if you're lucky, because they're much less consistent. And that means the person is going to be healthier when you do kind of push them. Another reason why I've really preferred the tac shotgun this season is because like I typically really didn't carry like the cover items much in zero build pubs in chapter 4. But with this season, I don't know if it's the map or how people are playing, I find myself getting in a lot more just like awkward encounters. And when I've started using like bunkers or portaforts or portafortresses more consistently, I feel like I've been playing more consistent as well. Whereas I'm not really sure what it is. Like I said, like chapter 4, I don't know if it's like the better mobility or just the way the map played or the way the players played, maybe the ARs being the way they were. I found that I got in less of those like awkward situations. Like the game was more predictable in chapter 4 for me, whereas like on this map, for zero build at least, things do feel like kind of random at times. So I do really want to carry those cover items or double mobility if I'm able to find it. And that really only leaves me room for 2 weapons, and that's going to be, a shotgun and an AR. So the tac shotgun just being good on its own is really nice, I think, and it's just the way shotgun fights have played out this season because of the pumps having lower range. I feel like the tac is good. You can, jump around and move like a psycho with the tac shotgun. It's fully automatic. You can just hold the shoot button. It'll keep shooting shots, and it's great. Also, compared to the Maven shotgun, the tac shotgun does have a higher fire rate. Obviously, the exotic Maven had a ridiculous fire rate, but as far as like the base shotguns go, the tac has a 1.5 fire rate, whereas the Maven had a 1.4. So it's not like a huge difference, but you're gonna get more shots off with the tac, I feel like, in a fight. And comboing pump AR, like the AR can be a solid combo weapon, but it's not as good as like Havoc pump combat SMG was, or Havoc pump pulse rifle, or Havoc pump flapjack rifle. Like the SMGs we had in chapter 4, not only was it like kind of more viable to run them, I feel like, because of the loot pools, also the SMGs were insane. And that's another reason why I just like, I don't know, I feel like the meta has shifted a lot this season. Like it's many different reasons that kind of add up for the tac shotgun being the way to go. It's not a consistent shotgun. You're going to hit some shots that are rough, but at least the fire rate is super fast. So you're going to be able to, get out a lot of more shots in a fight. One big mistake I think a lot of players make with the tac shotgun is they put that dot in the center of the reticle on the opponent's forehead to go for like a headshot, because a lot of players think I need to go for a headshot to get the max damage, which makes sense. But when you do this, that whole like top half of your crosshair is just like on air. And that's not very good. I think it's best with the tac shotgun to just maximize how many pellets you're hitting, and maybe put the dot on like their upper chest, like neck area. That way the bottom half of your crosshair is on their torso and the top half is like probably hitting their head. There's still going to be some area that isn't on the opponent, but unless you're just like literally barrel stuffing them, I think it's best to do this with your crosshair rather than putting the dot like straight on their forehead and just hitting less pellets overall. The pump can be good this season. It's not like it's terrible, but it's just much less forgiving, and you need to be more perfect with it than previous seasons. And I think the best way to use the pump this season is probably going to be pump and then the hand cannon or the deagle. You have 2 very high damage weapons back to back. If you're able to hit a solid pump shot into a deagle shot, and then maybe you go back to the pump for the finish, but you probably shouldn't need it, you can kill people incredibly fast with this combo. But it runs into the same problem I just talked about, where you're using 2 weapons that you basically need to be perfect with, whereas the tac user is having a super easy time. They just jump around, crouch spam, do whatever while they're holding their fire button. And since the pump's range is basically the same as the auto shotties, I think I just called it the Maven, but since the pump's range is basically the same as the tacs, I feel like it's harder to play more kind of safe and like structured around cover, because a lot of the fights you have to be so close to the person to even do damage to them. So I think if I was going to use the pump, I would want to use pump deagle, but now you run into some inventory concerns of like, do you run 3 guns, or do you just run the hand cannon as your kind of combo weapon and your mid-range weapon? It's rough to kind of work the pump into your setup in zero build this season. It might be a little bit easier in team game modes, because you can have like other people in your party carry things like the fortresses or whatever, but I just really like using a lot of utility this season, and I've found that I started to win games a lot more consistently once I started just using tac as my main shotgun, whatever like mid-range rifle I wanted, and then heals, and then like double mobility or mobility bunkers, whatever, or maybe even double heals because it's rough to come by heals this season. Like I just feel like the gap between the pump and the tack isn't large enough to justify using it, and I think it has to be because it's like the tack is just much easier to use and much more forgiving. And if the gap in effectiveness isn't like that large, you might as well just use like the easy to use forgiving option that also allows you to kind of carry more utility or have more freedom with your setup. I think especially if you're someone who likes using the scoped AR, because the scoped AR doesn't have the best hipfire accuracy. Someone commented on my video and said it's perfectly accurate, but like it has a large spread and it also has a really bad fire rate. So like if you're comboing pump and scoped AR, it's going to be rough. Whereas like if you want to run scoped AR attack, you don't have to worry about comboing them. And I feel like it just works a lot better. So for this reason, when it comes to pump versus tack, I think the tack is just definitely the way to go for zero build this season. For builds, I still much prefer the pump, but builds and zero builds are pretty different game modes. A lot of like the drawback of using the pump shotgun can be negated in build mode because you just like pump and then build a wall, or maybe make an edit play, pump, reset your wall. You're not just going to be exposed to the opponent, trading damage, which is what happens a lot of times in zero build. So as far as the core shotguns go, I think the tack is the way to go. But there's two other shotguns I want to talk about, and that is going to be the double barrel shotgun and the combat shotgun, because the double barrel shotgun is currently in the game, and I expect we'll see the combat in a few weeks. So the double barrel is incredibly good, but it is incredibly like one-dimensional as well. If you're barrel stuffing the opponent, basically, you could just shoot out 2 body shots. You don't really want to go for headshots with this weapon. It has a really large spread. It has like no range. And it also doesn't really have that high of a headshot multiplier. This was a weapon that was always designed to go for like body shots. And a lot of people back in the day kind of complained that this was just a super noob friendly weapon, because you see how inconsistent the pumps can be and how good your aim needs to be to use them. And then they added this double barrel shotgun, which just bodies for over 100. So if you are going to use a double barrel, just get close to the opponent, go for body shots, spam them out, and you can kill people pretty quick just 2-tapping back-to-back 100 damage shots. It's a very inconsistent weapon though because of that range and because of the spread. And it's not very forgiving if anything goes wrong. If one of your shots misses or for some reason you get bad damage, then you're probably going to lose that fight. And also in team game modes, it can be a struggle because in zero build, you're not just going to be able to like go for shots with it and then build away from the opponent. So like if you are fighting more than one person at once, the fact that the double barrel only has 2 shots can definitely get you killed. Also, this was vaulted in season 7, so we may see it leave on the 16th, which is this upcoming Thursday, because that is when the season 7 and 8 update is. We'll see how things go. With that, I don't really like using it. It can be good, but it's just very one-dimensional, like I said. And then the combat shotgun, I would expect this to come in the Season 9 and X update, which is on the 23rd, the Thursday after this upcoming one. And I think this actually could be incredibly good. A lot of the weapons in Fortnite OG have the stats changed from what they currently are. So like if you use the pump shotgun in creative, it has different stats than what it has in Fortnite OG. And if they do that with the combat shotgun, I think it could be insane, because in Chapter 2, they nerfed the damage and the fire rate, and I think the range of the combat shotgun, and it was still okay. But if you guys use the combat shotgun at the start of Chapter 4, that is a nerfed version of it in like pretty much every way. So if we get the combat kind of back to its Chapter 1 stats, I think it had like a 1.8 fire rate and would like body for like 70 or 80 damage. And this is also a shotgun that has a really tight pellet spread and really good range. It has much like higher range than the other shotguns in Fortnite OG. In Chapter 4, that range didn't shine as much because the Thunder shotgun and the Maven also had really good range. But when you compare the combat shotgun's range to like the tack or the pump in the season, the combat's range is ridiculous. It has a higher fire rate than the tack, and it has like really solid damage with a tight pellet spread. So if they do unvault the combat shotgun later on this season in the Season 9 and X update, which I would expect them to do, it was like a huge part of those seasons metas, I think this will probably be the best option in zero build when it ends up coming out, or if it ends up coming out. But that is going to be it for this video. Hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. If you have been struggling this season and you've been using the pump, try using the tack. I think it just works for zero build this season, and that's how the game was in the early days. And like the super early days of Fortnite, people didn't build very much, and at that time, the tac shotgun was preferred amongst most players that I knew. And we've kind of seen that repeat itself with Fortnite OG and zero build. But that's gonna be it for this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you like some more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.